if you want to scale a podcast and get leads, connections, insights from interesting guests and sponsors, you can go to podprayer.com. We help you start a podcast and scale a podcast the profitable way. Abdul, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you've been up to as of late.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Thank you for the invite. Yes, my background is mainly in science, as you described it. And I spent about 12 years, the last 12 years, exploring SMS cells. We call them, I call them actually small mobile stem cells. They have very special characteristics, unique mechanism of action. And we think that these cells can really revolutionize the field of regenerative medicine, which is very much in need of that, because regenerative medicine holds the promise of solving many of these chronic diseases that plague us and burden the whole economy. In addition to, of course, the immense suffering they exert on human beings.
Right. So you started that company 10 years ago. How has it evolved to today in 2025?
Yeah, it's actually been a little bit a bumpy road because we are at the edge of science, and people didn't have familiarity with the discovery, and we needed to kind of stay stealthy for quite a while because we are a small company with little resources. In the meantime, we actually secured many patents and filed even more, and that's when we came out. And then right now, we are moving now from the preclinical phase to the clinical phase. So we're going to conduct the clinical phase in Australia with 18 patients, COPD patients. So COPD is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's one of the most killers in the world. 400 million people are affected by this disease, and it is killing yearly 3 million people. And there is nothing that we can face that disease. So we're looking onto using the small mobile stem cells with their unique characteristics to counter that disease and other chronic diseases for which we have shown very good results at the animal stage.
Right. And is that common in the industry to take that long to reach clinical phase? And what about fundraising? Do you think that could accelerate the whole process?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We started with a different product. We started with actually extracellular matrix derived from these cells. Our intention was to do that as a medical device, so for wound healing. However, the regulatory had a different opinion about the type and the category of this device, supposedly device, and it described it as a biologic. So, and that actually shifted us to another product, which is our main product, which is cell therapy, using the cells for therapy. And that happened actually during the COVID time, where everybody was looking for solutions. And indeed, we were working on these cells for acute respiratory distress syndrome that is caused by COVID. And then we had to shift to another disease that's more prevalent, which is COPD. And we found we discovered a lot of things that relates to respiratory regeneration to lung regeneration, and that moves us quite a bit within these last 4 years. We were able to finish the preclinical studies that are required, and now we are moving to clinical stage. So I think 3 to 4 years is more likely, of course, as a preclinical stage for a drug.
And tell me about the SMS technology itself, like not the text message, but like the stem cells one. Like, what did you discover? Then tell me about how the discovery itself happened and why you thought this could really be beneficial for the market.
Yeah. So the discovery started because there has been, there has been something done that is not usual. People don't do usually. That's usually how discoveries happen. So some items that other people mislooked or didn't take for serious. These cells have a special characteristic, like they move quite fast, and you could mistake them as bacteria, and turn out to be that these cells are human cells. And this is one of the reasons. There are other reasons why people simply didn't discover them. So it took me, however, 1.5 years to convince myself that these are human cells. So I was a doubter of these, definitely. Then the cells have other characteristics that are extremely important for regenerative medicine. They attach to other human cells, to other important human cells that are key to regeneration of tissues, such as mesenchymal stem cells, such as fibroblast endothelial cells. They form also new vessels very strongly, even outside the body, and of course inside the body. They also produce extracellular matrix with proteins that are quite therapeutic. And we've seen when we administered them into animals that have damaged lung, that they are able to regenerate these lungs completely in a very short time, like 10 days. So there is a lot of promise for these cells. And we also were able to establish other indications such as joint disease and skin wounds, and we're looking for more.
And each of these stem cells cultures are programmed specifically to heal an organ. I thought like stem cells would adapt themselves to what they have to heal. Is that wrong?
The mechanism with these cells is a little bit different than a traditional notion about stem cell. The traditional notion about stem cell is that these cells produce the tissue that is targeted. In this case, no, these cells actually activate the cells of the tissue of the patient. So when they activate the cells of the tissue of the patient actually heals himself. And all the tissue that is being produced are typical of the patient. They are not typical of the cell that has been introduced. And the cell is taken from a donor. We can grow these cells to large extent. That's essential for a therapy approach, which we call allogenic off-the-shelf therapy. That means anyone can order these cells, and we can deliver these cells anytime, and they can be injected or introduced otherwise to the patient. And they have very little immunogenicity. Therefore, we don't expect any strong reactions against these cells. We've seen that in animals. Right now, we're exploring that in humans. So the fact that you can produce a large amount of these cells outside the body without loss of potency means you can make them available at industrial scale. And that's key that is key for overcoming a major obstacle in regenerative medicine.
Right. And what's the what's the current way to treat COPD, for example, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease? And yet also, if I would use your method, how would that happen? Is that an injection of your technology of SMS into me? What would be the treatment method?
Yeah, the current treatments are actually quite based on symptoms. So people suffer a lot during the disease. So the current treatments are mainly making it possible to breathe, and there is also oxygen supply. There is some surgery involved. Sometimes you have to replace the whole lung, but all these solutions are really not truly beneficial, and they don't reverse the disease or even halt the disease. So in this case, for these cells, this is another unique thing to them is the fact is they are small enough and extremely sturdy. They withstand adverse conditions. So you can actually nebulize these cells and you can inhale these cells directly to the lung. And that's a huge advantage for respiratory treatments because the cells, if injected, may get lost to other tissues, other organs, although we find them in the blood, in the circulating blood. But I think having them directly administered to the lung is a huge advantage and will concentrate the therapy into the lung.
And how will you produce these SMS at scale and at a low cost that is affordable, so that the technology wouldn't cost too much when it reaches the market?
That's an excellent question, Charles. Yes. In my opinion, an expensive solution is not a solution, because we have to look at chronic diseases from a societal point of view. We're paying more than $1 trillion every year because of chronic diseases. We need to find solution that makes sense. Yes, we can produce these cells at quite low cost. We don't need to genetically engineer the cells, and that's quite important because genetic engineering is very costly and cumbersome. So we can produce these cells with low cost and therefore make the therapy available to many people at very reasonable cost. So this is for us very important because our business model is based on democratizing regenerative medicine and cell therapy.
Right. And the inhaler, is the technology already there, or you would have to do lots of R&D to produce that one as well?
No, it's actually ready. It's a regular inhaler. We already settled for the inhaler. We have several also alternatives, not just one alternative. So when we start the clinical study, maybe in 1 or 2 months in Australia, we have everything set up already with regard to the device, the nebulizing device, and there should be no problem. The cells have been tested before nebulizing and after nebulizing, and there is no loss of anything that we can observe. The cell remain viable, potent, and able to exert its function.
Right, and it's simply about having these stem cells with some powder. Like, how does it work technically? Because I'm guessing you're just not putting the stem cells in there; you're putting it with other materials that would facilitate the transfer of that to the lungs, right?
Yeah, it's called a vehicle, and it's just a suspension format. So the cells are in suspension in a very mild, very safe solution. The whole thing is a suspension because, of course, the cells are not dissolved; they are alive as separate entities. and it can be easily administered using the nebulizer. We have tested that many times in separate laboratories, third-party laboratories. These are part and parcel of having the approval to move forward with a clinical trial.
Right. Do you feel that stem cells could radically improve human longevity? Where do you see the world in 20 to 30 years from now, biotech wise, and using or leveraging stem cells more than we do, actually?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The fact is, chronic diseases are mostly age-related diseases. So right now, we're looking at COPD, which is an age-related diseases. We're looking also for other age-related diseases. We found also that the cells are to improve on animals who are actually not sick, but just normal, So you can call it reversing the age of the organ or not. The fact here is that we can treat with a safe therapy like these stem cells individuals who have no clinical deficiency, just a subclinical manifestation of old age, and therefore potentially in the future improve the lung. So I'm looking for a widespread use of the technology once all the safety aspects has been established.
Right. And tell me about AI in vitro studies. Do you feel that this could accelerate the research more rather than testing on animal subjects? I mean, regulations still obligate companies to do test on animals then on humans, but could we do that all in the cloud and drastically accelerate research?
I think the current stage of knowledge for AI and omics, let's say in general, omics, allows us to use these systems when you don't have a good model, an animal model. Often animal models are actually quite bad for a proof of concept. Maybe the AI models will be better to use. So I think this is definitely helping. Regarding the safety, I think the regulatory will be hesitant to replace the safety studies in animals with in vitro testing or let's say in silico testing. But this is an evolving field. We definitely like to keep watching it and maybe benefiting from it. One aspect that can be quite useful is to target other indications using in silico biology, and I think it helps us be more targeted and therefore save money in research. We definitely see prospects in the future for doing that and improving, and therefore saving a lot of cost that burden us as startups and small companies.
Right. And you were previously a professor. Do you still believe in academia's potential to generate breakthroughs, or is it just way faster in the private sector?
I think academia needs to reform. There is a lot of shortcomings in academia, and the pressure are not always directed towards breakthroughs, disruptive knowledge, and fundamental improvements. So I think there is a lot of room for improvement, not just in academia, but also in the way information is spread, like, for example, through scientific articles and scientific journals. I have bad experience in some cases with that, but I don't think we can live without academia. I think academia is essential. Education is essential. We need maybe to reset some of our values regarding and notions regarding academia. We need to reset some of our goals, and we need to look then into better mechanism for achieving disruptive knowledge and revolutionary changes in our health system.
I believe you worked in Syria in the 2000s, right? And moved to the US. What do you have to say about the state of your current country? And what if more people were focused on healing rather than fighting, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was born in Damascus, and I'm very proud about that. Damascus is the oldest capital in the world. I think we have worked in Syria to remove dictatorship by educating people, you know, and unfortunately that was faced with blatant violence by the government of Bashar al-Assad. So I had some of my students being killed in peaceful demonstrations, and I still carry that pain with me. Right now, I think there is hope for building a new society. I hope that we can have an inclusive government that includes every component of the society. And I'm confident that the Syrian people are looking for a better future, a more inclusive and democratic future. Based on my knowledge and background, I spent there 18 years. I came back to the United States actually in 2013. So during this time, we went through many phases, and I have great confidence in the Syrian people and their abilities to overcome problems. They have proven that, by the way, in many other countries, and I hope they continue to do that.
Abdel, thank you for being on today. Where can people find out more about you?
We have a website, obviously, SMSbiotech.com. You can find a lot of information there. I'm happy if you want to address me directly through my email, which is A like Apple dot the last name Rahmo, Rahmo, at smsbiotech.com. And if you have any questions, I'll be ready to answer those. We welcome people from all background, especially also patients who suffer from diseases, who wants to have some hope for the future, because this is what we are working all for, increasing the level of hope.
It was Abdel Rahmo and Charles Cormier for